So today I'm going to be talking about arts in the community. Passion, perseverance, and production. Now, have you ever had one of your friends say, you know what, man, there's just too much music in this community. There's too much culture. We've got too much of the arts. I mean, the symphony's playing every night of the week. Ballets are going nonstop. Art exhibits. Man, we got too much. You never hear that. And we all know the statistics, right? Students in high school that play musical instruments, 100 points higher on the SAT. Graduation rates of 90%. Every year that they continue with music or art in the schools, the detention rates and the discipline rates significantly decrease. And yet, what are we doing? We're cutting the arts across America in our school systems. I can remember when I moved to Susanville. It's a small town in rural northeastern California. And when I first moved there, I felt as if there was this dark cloud that hung over the town. In fact, a documentary had been just produced called Prison Town, USA, and it put Susanville in a very negative light about the prison guards and the community itself. And so when I moved there, I started looking around. Everybody was negative. Everybody came up to me and said, why would you move here? But one thing that I noticed is that it was a ghost town of culture. There was very little culture happening at that time. And so playing the trumpet my whole life, I got this brass quintet together, and we started playing. And we gave a concert. It was a free concert at the college. This is 2003. And 100 people showed up at that concert in the cafeteria of the college. There's no performing arts center there. And I looked out over that audience, and I could see a hunger and a need for culture. After the performance, a clarinet player came up to me, and he said, hey, do you want to play the oboe part on your trumpet in a little woodwind quintet that we have? And I said, sure. So I go out to their house, and I start talking to these musicians. How long have you been together? We've been together for about 2 years. When was the last time you gave a performance, a concert, a recital? And they looked at me a little bit askance and said, oh, we've never done that. And being from a family of performers, I said, that's going to change. And so we then started this journey where we performed at the college again, and there was more people that came. So we had a few woodwinds here, we had a few brass players here, we had a few string players over there, and I said, let's start a symphony orchestra. And so we started the symphony, 18 musicians, not very good, and I'll talk about that and that journey that we went through together. But I will tell you this, that community in Susanville, by starting that symphony, was completely reborn. You see, we all need a revival of the arts in our community. We need a rebirth, a renaissance of culture in all of our communities. So the first thing I want to talk about is passion. Now, this word is bandied about all over the place these days. Passion, the definition of, is something that you do with barely controlled energy and zeal. Yo-Yo Ma, one of the greatest cellists of our generation, also along with these two gentlemen on the stage, Yo-Yo Ma said it best. Creativity is unleashed when there is passion, because where there is passion, there is a willingness to take risks. I learned this firsthand. I grew up in a very musical family. My father won all these Fulbright scholarships, so we went around the world and lived in communist Russia, we lived in India. And back then, our family didn't watch any TV, okay? And there was no internet. And so what did we do? Well, my father plays trumpet, I play trumpet, my brother plays violin, my mom plays the piano. And so my dad would buy these quartet scores by the dozens. And in Hungary, he bought some like 15 cents a piece. So we have this huge stack of music. And we would play for hours every day. I can remember in India, this was back in the 80s, in the Stone Ages, before the technology boom in India. And these guys would be outside our bungalow window. And they'd be sitting on these great big blocks of granite, and by hand they'd be chiseling this granite. And as we would start a piece of music, they would all be in a different rhythm. And as we played, they didn't have a radio, it would be like their metronome, and they would get in sync to when we were playing. So I'm playing my trumpet, and I have this whole note, which is just one long note, okay? And so I'm playing this whole note kind of slumped over like this, and so I play this whole note. About like that, you know? Nothing behind it, slumped a little bit. My brother had the solo at that point, so I'm just playing, oh, whatever. My dad cuts us off. He says, Benjamin, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just playing this note. It's not the solo. And my dad said something that was absolutely groundbreaking in my mind. He said, Benjamin, I want you to play that note as if it is the most exquisite solo in the trumpet literature. And I will tell you something. When he told me that day, I took it to heart. And it absolutely changed my life. I mean, what better to be passionate about than the arts? What better to be passionate about than your community? And the best thing about these golden nuggets that I'm telling you today is that you can apply it to every aspect of your life. Relationships, your job, your career. If you're going to do something, do it 100%. Do it with all of your heart. You will change history if you do that. The second thing that I want to talk to you about today is perseverance. Now let me tell you something. Nothing great that you will accomplish in life will come without adversity. Let me say that again. Nothing great that you're going to accomplish in life is going to come without adversity. Adversity is great. Perseverance is the fortitude to blow past those obstacles that are in your way. Perseverance is the journey that you take where you go through the valleys. If I had been given everything in my life, I would not grow in my character. It's in the valleys that our character is formed. Think about the way a sword is forged. Have you ever seen it happen? The blacksmith takes that hammer and he takes the piece of metal and he puts it into the fire so that it becomes malleable, right? Our character, we have to go through the fire to become moldable. But I'll tell you this, when you come out on the other side, that forged sword has become unbreakable, unbending, unyielding, almost invincible. And that's what happens with our character, right? If we can make it to the other side, our character will be changed. The vision of our organization will be renewed, and you can make a difference. I can remember when I was in 6th grade, and it was career day at school. Everybody was raising their hand in the assembly. What do you want to be when you grow up, the motivational speaker said. And the kids were like, I'll be a fireman, I want to be a policeman, I want to be a doctor and a lawyer. Then I stood up, I raised my hand, 6th grade, and I said, I am going to be, not I want to be, big difference. I am going to be the best trumpet player in the world. How do you think those kids responded? They laughed, they oh, are you kidding me? Look at it. What did he just say? I can't believe it. What did he say? That's ridiculous. And I started to feel a little bit of shame. I remember my face started getting red. And as I sat down, that shame turned to something else. It turned to fortitude. And I remember saying to myself, I'm going to prove them wrong. You see, it steeled that inside of my character. The next day, before school, I practiced my trumpet. 4 hours a day for the next 7 years, until in 1988, the International Trumpet Guild recognized me as one of the greatest trumpet players in the world under the age of 18. But I remember that I had the perseverance to push through those obstacles. When we first started the Southwestern Symphony, it wasn't easy. It was difficult. I had an idea from a friend of mine as they introduced me to my wife, and they said, hey, why don't you write a little piece of music, and this lady named Jessica can choreograph it. and you can write something. A good thing, because it introduced me to my wife, and we got married a couple of years later. But I said, okay, let's do this ballet. So I wrote this hour-long ballet. And what do you think the board said? The board of directors said, when I said, this is what we're going to do, we have to build a stage out on the church, and we're going to have dancers, and we're going to have, 100 people on stage. We're going to shove the orchestra up against the back wall. They were all here at that point. They didn't like it. But the board started asking me in meetings, well, what's going to happen? Are these dancers professional? Are they going to trip all over themselves? What's going to happen? And I remember sitting there saying, remember this vision. Remember this vision. We're going to do this. Because see, once we went through that and we sold out every night of those performances, the next time that I wanted to do something that was a little bit different, I reminded the board, hey, this is what's going to happen. Remember, you make it through those dark times. You make it through those valleys. Your character will be strengthened. The organization and the vision that you have for that organization will be strengthened, and history will be made. Last point I want to talk to you about is the actual production aspect of it. And there are several points that I want to talk about. First thing is that when you decide to do something, when somebody said, write 10 minutes of a ballet, or 10 minutes of just a piece that you can choreograph to dance, what did I say? I'm going to write a piece of music that's going to be huge. Not many ballets being premiered. It was a big deal in the dance world, a lot of notoriety. And so I said, I'm going to set those dreams big. Now, I've coached college soccer for the last 20 years. And I said the same thing to those men and women on day one. I got them together and I said, listen, this is what we're going to do. Our goal is to win the national championship. Our goal is to become nationally ranked. Our goal is to win the conference and everything that I just told you. And that's what we're going to do. That's what our goal is. Because see, if I sat there on that first day and I said, hey, we're going to win a couple of games, it's a new team, I started a new program. Along those 20 years, I started 7 new college programs. Most people would say, this is going to be a building year. Let's just field a team. And I would tell those men and women, this is what we're going to do. Because see, if you put those goals out there that are really, really big and you miss the mark, you're still going to find success. So the first thing about the production aspect of the arts in your community is that I want you to start dreaming big. The second thing that I want to encourage you to do is to surround yourself with great people. In order to do that, you really have to take a look at yourself. And unfortunately, in today's age, we've got these shackles of society, right? Social media, internet, television. We rarely have a moment to look inside ourselves. I've been very fortunate. I've taken a lot of kayak trips where it was just me and the ocean or the river and all the creatures that lived out there. But I was able to sit there and turn my reflection inside. And you know what I found? I found out that the man that I thought I was not the man that I was. And it wasn't the man that I wanted to be 10 years from now. It's so important for us to really analyze who we are on the inside. I've got a saying for all my soccer teams, take your weaknesses and make them your strengths. Take your strengths and become invincible. The problem with that is that most people don't acknowledge their weaknesses. If I had started that symphony in 2003 and tried to do it all myself, it would have been a colossal failure. But that first board of directors that I got together was absolutely amazing. We had people that could market the heck out of the symphony. We had lawyers, we had doctors, we had dentists, and the board is really what forged this symphony from just being mediocre and maybe disappearing in a year or two to actually going up and being now a nationally recognized symphony orchestra. So surround yourself with great people, because as iron sharpens iron, you will end up sharpening yourselves. How many times have you seen people that want to surround themselves with other people that are not of their caliber? What's going to happen? That's going to drag you down. You want to surround yourself with people that will make your weaknesses better. Third thing I want to remind you about is perseverance. You have to expect perseverance. All of us in this room, all of us watching this are leaders in our own right. You don't have to be the CEO of a company. You don't have to be the artistic director of a symphony. We're all leaders in our family, our friends, and we should be leaders in our community. Leaders are like the bow of a ship. If you go from point A to point B, what's going to happen? You're going to leave a wake, right? because you don't ever want to stagnate in life with your character, who you are, with your organization, with your community. And so again, relish perseverance. Book in the Bible, James says, consider it all joy, brothers and sisters, when you encounter trials and tribulations, because those trials and tribulations will give you perseverance, and perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. Last thing I want to talk about today in the production element is the production itself. Dare to be different. I talk to middle schoolers, high schools all the time. What do we want to do right now? Everybody wants to conform. Everybody wants to be like somebody else. Even my son, he's like, hey, I want to wear what all the other kids are wearing at school. The other day I told my wife, I carried a briefcase to school in high school for a week just to see what was going to happen. I wore a 3-piece suit one day. I wore a Megadeth t-shirt another day. I always like to change it up. I don't want to be like everybody else. I always wanted to be different. With your programming, you've got to dare to be different. But you've also got to recognize at the same time that your audience, they are your patrons. Completely by accident did I discover this in the beginning of the symphony. We weren't good enough. I said that, right? 18 musicians. It's now grown to 60 musicians. We've got a booming academy of musicians, young musicians, because they took away the schools in Susanville, and so we started an academy. It's for free. We've got 50 students that are involved in that academy. But with the production part of it, we've got to start to think outside the box. That beginning symphony, we weren't good enough. I wasn't good enough as a conductor. I went and got my master's in conducting later. I didn't know what I was doing. I was a trumpet player. I was conducting 2/4 like this. I was conducting it backwards because it was like looking at a mirror when I was sitting in the orchestra playing my trumpet. We didn't know what we were doing. And so as I got ready for that first concert, I realized as I was printing up the programs, we didn't have enough music. We had 25 minutes worth of music because we just weren't good enough. And I thought to myself, nobody's going to come to hear a concert that we don't even have enough music to fill that first half. So I was thinking, well, maybe I'll give them some background stories. I do like to talk, so maybe I'll give them some background stories of my life. Wait a second. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to give them some of the history of the pieces that are going to be played. That'll entertain them, right? And some of the audience knows that. Some of the audience didn't know that. I told them the story about Marcia's Laube. This was a piece written by Tchaikovsky, and Tchaikovsky was not very political. Okay, but this piece that he wrote was political. And in that piece, he talks about Mother Russia. And in the beginning of that piece, the French national anthem, symbolizing Napoleon coming in and symbolizing anybody that wants to come into Russia. And if you've studied Russian history, you'll realize that they have had centuries of people coming in trying to take over their country. And so I said, when Tchaikovsky wrote this, the old French national anthem is played by several members of the orchestra. And one player is playing the Russian national anthem. Later on in the piece, those same players are playing the French national anthem, but the entire lower brass, the entire bass section, the cellos, everybody's playing that Russian national anthem. And what Tchaikovsky was saying is that no matter who comes into our shores, no matter who invades our country, Mother Russia will live forever. And the audience got it. So you know what happened at the premiere? They went crazy. Tchaikovsky conducted it himself. After they finished playing the piece, the audience stood up on the chairs. They were throwing stuff. They were, the reports say in history, they were gnashing their teeth, and they were just so excited and passionate about their country. That's the kind of passion that we should have with our communities. But you know what that audience demanded? That they play it again immediately. So they played it at the premiere twice, one of the few times in history that happened. When I told the audience that story, it connected them totally by accident. I wasn't smart. It just happened by accident because we weren't good enough. But it connected the audience to the music in a way that I have not seen in a lot of places. It connected them. It's why now, for the first decade, we sold out concert after concert after concert. Every time we opened the doors, the tickets would be sold out. Our audience is important. We very rarely play an entire symphony of music. In the beginning, we did that because we weren't good enough. But now I realize that the audience might not want to sit through a 50-minute piece. They want to see one movement. They want to see that exciting music, and they want to learn a little bit because they leave a little bit smarter than when they came. And it's connected the audience. We've got tattoo artists sitting next to doctors and lawyers and judges and mechanics, and everybody's there in that community supporting that symphony. Think outside the box. Remember that your patrons are the lifeblood of your organization. I leave you with this challenge. Go out and get involved in your community, whether it's the arts, athletics, whatever it is. Go out there and seek the arts. Find out what's being done and get involved. Find out what isn't being done and make history. Thank you.